Contact tracing is part detective work, part widely used public health method, and experts believe a key strategy in fighting the coronavirus pandemic. It relies on identifying and interviewing every person who tests positive, isolating them, and then finding anyone else that person could have infected. These people may then be quarantined before they can spread the infection to others. A recent study estimates that because one person infected with COVID-19 can infect 2 to 3 other people, just one positive case can turn into more than 59,000 cases after 10 rounds of infection. Contact tracing can help prevent this potential wave of infections from becoming a tsunami. Public health officials say contact tracing is a necessary step before certain businesses can reopen and people can start to return to normal activities. Some countries, including South Korea, India, and Singapore, are using smartphone technology alongside traditional techniques to ramp up their contact tracing programs. While the CDC in the US has started a pilot program to ramp up contact tracing in some states, many studies estimate that the US will need hundreds of thousands of additional public health workers before a contact tracing system can really begin nationwide.
There's no sign the mystery virus has appeared in Canada, but in a
organization says the world is now closer to an influenza pandemic. The past 40
This morning on Health Watch, West Nile virus.
Yesterday, a few cases of bird flu.
Swine flu is on the move.
75 students at a high school have now fallen ill with flu-like symptoms.
Is this a pandemic? A global epidemic?
There is a real possibility that this is the next pandemic.
In this post-SARS era, everyone is on fire.
It's April 29th, 2020. These guys don't have a care in the world, but Justin Trudeau is hoping that you guys are going to give up your personal information so that they can track, trace, and database every single thing you are doing to fight the spread of COVID-19. He says, I think many Canadians would be open to the idea of providing some information that would normally not be provided simply because of this pandemic, but where do we draw the lines? That is something that has not been established. Even in an emergency, we'll be careful about what we're going to ask Canadians. It might be possible to allow this to be voluntary, but that's part of our current reflection in terms of reopening the economy step by step. Dr. Peter Phillips, an infectious disease specialist at the University of British Columbia, says, you can end up with some initiatives that raise questions about privacy and civil liberties, or you can have a scenario like Italy or New York. So in other words, we can do this the easy way, or we can do this the hard way.
Health authorities are taking no more chances of the smallpox spreading. Police are sent to padlock every business suspected of being contaminated with the disease.
I think the public has to know this is one of the worst case scenarios in terms of an infectious disease outbreak, in that their cooperation is sought. If there are people who are non-compliant, there are definitely laws and public health powers that can quarantine people in mandatory settings. It's potential you could track people, put bracelets on their arms, have police and other setups to ensure quarantine is undertaken. It is better to be preemptive and precautionary and take the heat of people thinking you might be overreactionary, get ahead of the curve, and then think about whether you've overreacted later. But it's such a serious situation that I think decisive early action is the key.
Police checkpoints are set up on all the bridges, and everyone leaving the city is required to show proof of vaccination. Those who refuse to cooperate are taken away to temporary detention centers.
Oh yes, contact tracing. Is that what they're calling it now? Because It seems to me that this is the nightmare panopticon total surveillance grid that crazy conspiracy theorists have been warning about the creation of for decades now. But no, you silly conspiracy theorists, you were completely wrong. That never existed and you were crazy and paranoid for even caring about it. But, oh, here it is, and it's now called contact tracing. You see how this works. This leads to a remarkably profound and remarkably simple observation about propaganda. Propaganda is PR. All propaganda is, stripped down to its bare bones, is a marketing campaign designed to sell an otherwise unpalatable idea to the public.
Vaccination is probably the single greatest medical achievement in all of medical history. Forget about all our drugs and antibiotics and operations and all these things. There's nothing that's had more of an impact on the general health of the world than vaccination. So, to me anyway, that is absolutely clear. It's not even worth debating. Nonetheless, you have knowledgeable, educated, otherwise reasonable people who do have a resistance, and it just goes to show humans don't behave rationally.
You gotta ask yourself the question, where are you gonna draw the line in the sand? How far is too far for you? Is that the cops coming into your house and kicking open your door and forcing in a needle in your arm? Is that too far? I mean, how far are you willing to let this go?